Hello. This is the second video about simple present tense. If you haven't watched the first video about the uses of simple present, please watch that one first. In this video, we're going to talk about the form of simple present and do some practice. So the first thing to know is that the simple present is formed or made in different ways depending on which verb we're using and depending on which type of sentence it is. Let's start with the verb be. Be is a very common verb, as you know, in English, and we often use it in simple present. Not always, but often. When we use be in simple present, we have three different forms, am, is, and are. And we use the different forms depending on the subject that we're using. So you probably already know this, but we say I am, he is, she is, and it is, and you are, we are, and they are. So we have some examples over here, right? I'm going to fit a form of be into each one, and you can do this along with me. I am a teacher at Oakton Community College. My sister is a graduate student at Northwestern University. She is a mother of 2 children. It is a lot of work being a mother and a full-time student. We are happy to see you. So again, from these examples, you can see how changing the subject also changes the form of be that you use. What happens if your verb is not be and you want to use the simple present? Well, that gets a little bit easier then. If you have any other verb than be in your sentence, like eat or drink, play or study, run or walk, any other verb that's not be, then we only have 2 forms of the verb. If your subject is I, you, we, or they, you just write the verb as is. Don't change it at all, right? I eat, you eat, we eat, they eat, right? But if your subjects are he, she, or it, we need to add s or es to the end of that verb. He eats, she eats, it eats, right? So if you can memorize these subjects and the form of the verb that they go with in present simple tense, it's going to be super easy for you. Let's take a look at the blanks now. And again, you can do this along with me. This time I didn't give you the verbs, so you can just think about what verb would make sense in this sentence. Number 1, I teach at Oakton Community College. My students study at Oakton Community College. We like Oakton because it's a great school. So each of these uses the subjects here that take just the regular form of the verb. The next one, Oakton, is it, right? So we have to add s. Oakton has a lot of great classes. My nephew is he, right? So what can we say? My nephew goes to preschool. While my sister is she. So we're also going to add s. While my sister takes graduate classes. So again, when you have a verb other than be, we only have 2 forms of the verb, but you need to look at the subject that will tell you which form of the verb to use. Here's a little bit of practice for you. And for this one, I'd like you to pause the video while you think about which form of the verb would work best. Remember to look at the subject and also whether the verb is be or a verb other than be. Okay, I hope you paused your video. Here are the answers. India is the 2nd most populous country in the world. India grows nearly 40% of the world's mango crop. I love mangoes, my favorite fruit. And mangoes contain a high level of vitamin C and fiber, which make them a very healthy fruit to eat. So notice here the subject is India, and India is it. So we need a verb with s, right? Is and grows. Mangoes here is plural, right? So mangoes are they. Here we just add the verb as is. No s, nothing, right? So the verb is the same as the verb in parentheses. Another form of the present simple is when we use there plus be. We use this form when we want to talk about just the fact that something exists, right? For example, there are 2 windows in this room, or there is a fly buzzing around. So when we have there plus be, the subject is a little bit different. The subject actually comes after the form of be, right? If your subject is a singular noun, meaning one of something, or a non-countable noun too, we're going to use the form is. If your subject is a plural noun, meaning more than one, we're going to use a plural form of be, are, right? Here are some examples. There is a fly in my soup. A fly is singular, so we use the form of be, is. There is new information about the coronavirus. Information is non-countable, which means it's always a singular noun. And therefore, again, we use the verb is. In the last two, the nouns are plural nouns. There are several questions about this writing assignment. There are things we can do to help. When we have a plural noun, we use the form of be, are. Here's a little bit of practice for you. Again, please pause the video while you read the sentences and try to write down your answers. Remember, you're going to use a form of be, so is or are, right? And you're going to use the subject, right, plural noun or singular noun, to tell you whether you should use is or are. Please pause the video. I'm going to give you the answers right now. So here are the answers. And number 1, we use are because causes is the plural noun. Number 2, the noun comes right after a need. Because of this word we can tell that this is a singular noun. So we use the verb is. And in number 3, can you guess what the noun is? It's students, right? And it's a plural noun, so we use the verb are. Okay. Our last rule to talk about the form is what happens when we want to make a negative sentence. In other words, we want to use the word not in our sentence. Well, again, we have to ask ourselves, are we using the verb be, or is it any other verb than be? If we're using the verb be, right, we're going to follow the same form, am, is, or are, and just add not after that form of be. For example, I am not a student. There is not one easy way to learn a language, and rugby and cricket are not popular sports in the US. So easy peasy, right? Just add your form be and add not after it. But if your verb is not be, if it's any other verb other than be, the form gets a little bit trickier. Here, we use do or does depending on the subject. So I, you, we, they, do. He, she, it does, right? Do or does, then we add not, and then we add verb base. Now, verb base, what do I mean by verb base? Verb base means the basic form of the verb. This means don't change anything to the verb. Don't add s, don't add ed, don't add ing or xyz, don't add anything, okay? Just the verb as is. For example, elephants do not have good eyesight. Notice here we use do because elephants is plural. They do not have good eyesight. And here we don't change this verb have at all. It's just the basic form of the verb. The second one, the community college is it, right? So here we use does, not do, but we add that s. It does, right? It does not require SAT scores. Many students will put an S here because they think, oh, community college requires, right? But because you already have an S here on does, this just needs to be the basic form of the verb. Don't change it, right? Okay, here's a little bit more practice for you. Please pause the video while you try to write in the blanks. Notice that some of these are be, so you want to use this formula if your verb is be and it's negative. But if your verb is not be, if it's any other verb, then you're going to use this formula. Please pause the video while you do this exercise. I'm going to give you the answers right now. Number 1, do not speak, is not, are not, right? Remember that this is a there plus be sentence, so this noun is plural, and that's why we use are. And the last one, Bella does not need to take math class. All right, students, so I hope that helped you get a good understanding about the form of the present simple. There are a lot of rules, but if you take it step by step, you're going to be just fine. Next up, we're going to do a little bit of practice, right? So remember, just like any muscle in your body, right? Your brain is the same way. You've got to practice what you learn in order to remember it. Okay, so let's get started. Complete the sentences with the simple present of the verb in parentheses, okay? So remember to think about what is the subject, right? That will tell you if you need S or ES. And then also think about, is it affirmative sentence or a negative sentence with not, right? We might need a helper verb like do or does. And also, is it a verb be or is it another type of verb? Remember, verb be has its own form, but other verbs have a different form. Okay, good luck, students. You can pause the video. In the next slide, I'm going to give you the answers. So please pause that video. Here are the answers, right? Again, you can pause the video while you take a look at them. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or reach out to me. Come to my office hours. And here's one more practice for you. Here you're going to fill in the blanks with the correct form of the verb in parentheses, just like we did before. Okay, this one is a whole paragraph, so it fits together really nicely. Once again, please pause the video. I'm going to give you the answers right now. Here you go. Again, you can pause the video while you read through them and check your answers. If you have any questions at all, don't forget that I'm here for you and I'm happy to answer them. Last up, we're going to review everything that we learned in this video and also the last video. Woo, that was a lot of information, right? So basically, we learned that the simple present or the present simple is used to talk about facts and truths, is used to talk about habits and routines, and it's used to explain the events of a book, poem, or story. And then the second thing we learned is we learned the forms. So we talked about how to form this verb tense when we use verb be, how to form this verb tense when we use verbs other than be, how to form this verb tense with there plus be, and then also how to make a negative form of this verb tense in both verbs be and other verbs. Whew. That is a lot of information. Feel free to watch this video as many times as you need to. And please make sure to do the practice so that you can feel super comfortable using this verb tense. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, you can email me at that email below. See you next time.